Hey, everybody. Welcome back to your Dawn of Autonomy podcast. I'm Dawn Zoldi, your host and the CEO of P3 Tech Consulting. And we've got two amazing folks with us here today as we continue a month dedicated to OEM system and software leaders. We've got Edwin Sanchez, the CEO of VOTIX, and Andrew Swift, who's got his own company called, drumroll, 730 UAS. Okay. A consulting firm. So wonderful to have you both on the show. And by the way, everybody, Edwin was one of P3 Tech and my very first clients, honestly, and was absolutely the very first one to work with me and my producer, Mike, on a product release on their software called, drone orchestration, the worldwide premiere. So we'll drop that link. We're going to revisit that a little bit, just show how it's grown over time and being used by folks in public safety like Andrew and others, as well as enterprise. So Edwin, let's start with you and let's start with introductions for those that don't know you. Let's start there.
Okay, great. Thank you for having us, Dawn. I'm tremendously excited, you know that, and I totally agree with you that we actually launched our technology 2 years ago with you. It was a tremendous hit. Since then, we have seen a lot of people coming to us saying, "Hey, I actually found you via, Dawn's podcast and that launch." And I always tell everyone that working with you has been great, and you're always so welcoming and you have a lot of ideas that really turn into something valuable for us or for anyone. Um, well, I'm a software engineer. I'm founder and CEO of VOTIX. I've been, an entrepreneur for quite a while now, even though in the past I also worked for, large enterprises, software enterprises like Oracle, Microsoft, Adobe, and I come from that world. And then I brought all that experience on enterprise software to the drone industry, along with my partners that are drone experts. And that's how we actually started building this technology back in 2018. By the time we decided to launch, we had a really robust technology that we launched with you because that was actually the plan originally, to have something solid to come out to the market to really offer something government grade or government worthy and enterprise worthy. And since then, it's been great so far. The acceptance, attraction has been amazing. We're tremendously excited what's going to come up for the rest of this year and the upcoming one.
Excellent, excellent. And by the way, fun fact, I stumbled upon Edwin and VOTIX at this incredible booth that they had at AUVSI Exponential a couple years ago, like you said. And it was so eye-catching. And I stopped by and I said, "What are you guys doing?" And once, he and at the time, Ed Bucas, your partner in crime there, took the time to explain to me what you're doing. Like, no one's really doing this like what you're talking about. And so that kind of started that. So super cool to watch how you've grown over time. Andrew, let's talk about you. So you come from a law enforcement background, is that right? Yeah, tell us a little bit about your background and like what you're doing in your company now.
Sure. Yeah. So I have over 10 years now in law enforcement. I work for a sheriff's office in California. I got into the drone world and craziness about 5 years ago when our law enforcement, my agency, started a drone team, and I was one of the first pilots on that team. And for the last year and a half, I've been running the team full time as my full time job. Just so I do nothing but drones. And so that gives me, a unique perspective when it comes to public safety and the use of drones in public safety, because we're doing it all. I started my company, 730 UAS, a couple of years ago as primarily a training company. I was working with another company that helped injured veterans who are getting out of the military find a new career path in drones and industry. And so we trained them everything from basic flight skills all the way through a bunch of different courses so they could figure out where they wanted to take their path after the military. And then recently I transitioned into consulting and I'm working with a few companies, including VOTIX, to help companies who are trying to integrate their software technology in the drone space with public safety agencies to help agencies do our mission of keeping our communities safe.
Wow.
And so that's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say thank you for everything you're doing in service to our nation as law enforcement. as well as working with our nation's veterans, near and dear to my heart, as one of those as well. So thank you for everything you're doing. Really cool. I love that you've partnered up with Edwin. I think, as I look around, I see the companies that are really excelling. They're the ones listening to, the customer, if you will, as to their needs, and to have someone like you with the insights you do, I think is really critical. So most of us know about drone as first responder, or DFR, Andrew, and I assume that's basically what you've been using the VOTIX software for. But can you just very briefly, for those who may not know what DFR is, just very briefly explain what that is and why it's so game changing?
Yeah, absolutely. So drone as first responder is basically a way to have on-demand air support when we need it, right? There's a lot of agencies that don't have helicopters or don't have the manned aviation support. We're fortunate in where I live that we have a lot of manned air support, but there's still a lot of gaps. And so the basic concept is you have drones that live in docks, strategically placed around the area that you need covered, and then you use a remote operations platform like VOTIX to access those drones and dispatch them to calls for service that come in through the 911 dispatch center. And that's critical for us because things happen very quickly in my world, and the faster you can get eyes on scene, the more intelligence you're going to have for officers responding. And we're seeing a lot of times, so we get a lot of calls that come in as, the whole world's on fire. And then when we get there, there's really actually not really much happening. And so the ability to get a drone there within seconds versus minutes to tens of minutes sometimes for a person allows us to make that educated, guess of what's going on. We're able to actually, instead of making a guess, we're able to actually see what's happening, and then dispatch resources as actually needed. So it's been huge in that regard to help. It makes it safer for officers, safer for the community, and it helps us free up resources to send them where they actually need to go. So it's huge.
Awesome. So I want to go back to Edwin. We did drop the link for your world premiere of the VOTIX software, drone orchestration, manage, stream, fly. I've got it committed to memory because I've worked with you so much on that. Give folks, Edwin, just kind of that very high level 30,000 foot overview of the software first, and then we'll talk about what problems you were aiming to solve in creating it.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Definitely, since we launched, we have advanced significantly. It's a tremendously big progress or robust progress since. Actually, one very active area of evolution happened when we actually partnered with Andrew 1 year ago. And at the time, we had a very clear vision on turning into the best platform for DFR operations in the country and internationally. And with Andrew was pretty, open to say, hey, Edwin, that's a great vision. Looking forward to work with you guys, but there's a few things that are still missing for an effective operation. And since then, we have been working, on par, back to back, on ensuring that all of those elements that are needed for these kind of operations are in place. And I love when I hear Andrew and other, police officers, like many that we had the opportunity to talk to last week in the LEDA event back in Irvine, California, that we have a lot of answers or questions answered, to their own needs, which extend beyond DFR, but definitely solve, many of the DFR challenges that are out there, and we exceed many of the current technologies that are being used. And that's for us tremendous. Actually, with Andrew, we're using this statement. It's built and honed in by law enforcement for law enforcement, or police officers for police officers. And I say law enforcement because it can be used in other public agencies. Now, going back to the question is that the best way I like to describe this is more like, think about a symphony orchestra, right? You have a lot of instruments, you have a lot of players, you have a play to play, and you have a lot of things, and you even have an audience, right? Very demanding audience. So you need what? A symphony conductor to actually ensure that this execution is flawless, that everything happens as required. Exactly. So we are that. We are that symphony conductor. We connect all of these dots. We play with them. We actually plan with them and strategize with them before the show. During the show, we execute and make sure that everything plays nicely for the audience that is there. And then afterwards, we collect feedback and analyze what happened to do it even better next time. So this is the kind of things we do at a very high level thing. And of course, applicable to the industry itself is that we allow drone operators to really take more than 80% of their risks that are normally human managed right nowadays into an automated or software control way, and making it easier for operators to scale up.
I love that. And, we talked a little bit before the show. When you think about DFR, people automatically think public safety, but this idea as drone as first responder applies across a whole bunch of different agencies, federal, state, local, tribal, territorial, right? So I think we've got a really cool image will pop up. And while we're doing that, because I'm going to have you explain what we're seeing here, Edwin, I wanted to say we are live, of course, and we got Mark and Nug, one of our super fans, coming to us from Alaska, saying good morning. So, hey, Mark, great to have you out there. Just saw him a couple weeks ago, and Edwin and Andrew at Commercial UAV in Vegas. So always a fun, happy reunion seeing everybody. But tell us what we're seeing here, and as you're explaining this, Edwin, kind of also expand this idea of DFR for other industries besides just law enforcement.
Okay, I'm going to explain this and the three products that are behind at play, and then I'll leave, actually, Andrew, to explain that second question you made. So you mentioned three products that are still, the products that we sell individually, but also manage for pretty much, setting up, planning, and analyzing and scheduling operations from one drone to many, including, different moving parts like drone in a box or sensors, or all sorts of different elements that are around there. And Don, something important when we talk about drones in this conversation, it involves aircraft of any sort, right?
Right.
But we also support other drones like dogs, rovers, boats, even submarines. We're working with a Canadian company to actually have a submarine including their command and control capacity. So that's even more robust that's why diversity in drone operations is so important, especially for police departments. Now, what we're seeing here is actually, I was mentioning manage, stream and fly, manage for setup and planning, stream for easy sharing and streaming in real time for those who don't have BVLOS operation or don't need BVLOS operation, but still want to quickly share streaming from an operation in real time. They can use the stream. And Fly, it's a fully featured platform for command and control centers with all sorts of different capacities to remote operate and actuate any kind of drone remotely. Now, what we're seeing here is actually the cockpit of the cockpit of the platform right now. It's what we call real-time remote operating a drone. So this drone in particular in this image, it's actually in an international country being flown from the States.
Wow.
And you can see, a couple of features that are being there. Very important for DFR. And I'm going to turn to actually Andrew to explain why is this kind of operation relevant.
Okay, cool. Go ahead, Andrew.
So here we're seeing the cockpit view of the aircraft, and then you're seeing the thermal image versus the regular image, and that's huge for us. Whether even operating daytime or nighttime, having the ability to switch between different camera views, so we can see things that we may not be able to see. If it's a super shadowy area during the daytime, it may be really hard to penetrate through those shadows and see what's underneath. We can flip over to the thermal camera. As long as there's enough thermal contrast there, we might be able to see a suspect hiding behind a tree or in a bush or something like that, especially if they've been there a while and they made it very hot.
Well, and Andrew, let me ask you this. I've been doing a lot of research also on drones for firefighting in particular. And correct me if I'm wrong. I could be wrong. If it's thermal also can see through smoke. Is that right? Essentially.
Yes. So basically, what a thermal image is it's just showing you heat differential. So heat or temperature differences between surfaces. So when you throw on the thermal image during a fire and there's a bunch of smoke, it's not going to actually see those smoke particles because it's not looking through a visual camera. It's just looking
Right.
through its thermal lens. And yeah, it's huge in the firefighting industry. I know my partners locally where I work, they have a big drone program, and they're even looking to go to a DFR solution as well for their responses to fires, because it's huge for them to be able to get that look around, a 360 look around a building, see where those hot spots are, and direct their the ground firefighters to put the water on the fire.
Yeah, you know,
Now, Don, let me make a comment on this that I think complements what Andrew just said, is that think about the power that, police officers or public safety agencies gain when they can actually execute this from a central command, rather than having, a person on site, perhaps losing their own capacity to operate on the criminal scene or whatever is going on, rather than being assisted, and not losing that capacity on site. So this is actually what we can offer. What Andrew explained, using VOTIX can be executed by people in a command and control center.
Yeah, because I think you slipped in an acronym earlier, Edwin. I didn't jump right in because you were on a roll. But EC, I think you meant Emergency Center, or EOC in the military used to call it Emergency Ops Center. But that central location, whether it's a command center, whatever the terminology is being used, to basically, to use your term, Edwin, orchestrate the response.
Exactly.
I just did a talk last week at GeoGov about drones in disasters. And, it was really a geospatial crowd, and they're collecting data from all kinds of different, points, right? But drones are a big piece of that. So really, really cool. Now, Andrew alluded to flipping from like a regular visual camera to a thermal camera, Edwin, and you guys have like 400 features in the software. So walk us through that a little bit. Like, what functionalities are we talking about? Like 400 features?
Yeah. Again, we're not gonna we can take hours explaining, that, but let me actually go over a few things. First, in the management part, being able to plan and set up your operation is very important. Even though DFR is primarily aimed at real-time operations, ad hoc operations, which we support fully. Many opportunities, public safety agencies or anyone, even inspections in the private sector, need to plan things in advance. If they're going to do some sort of surveillance or any kind of inspection or anything that requires certain level of planning, you can actually do it in our system. You don't have to go to a third-party system to actually do this. Actually, just for the audience, nowadays, standard operations that are not involving VOTIX may require 10 different pieces of software that are not, connected or integrated to actually execute one single workflow. And we actually replace all of that in a single, easy-to-use interface, and has all these features. I was mentioning planning, but also you can schedule. Let's say you have a drone in a box or a nest or a dock, as it's being called nowadays, on the rooftop, and you want to fly from there. You don't need visual observer. If you have permission to actually remove the visual observer from there, you may operate that station on a regular basis. You can manually launch it. You can schedule operation from there and operate without that human involved, making it even more powerful and being able to reduce the incidence of human error in the process. Now, moving on in the streaming part, a lot of people is pursuing to be efficient in using video streaming, which we do, and we are the best out there in the market with less than a quarter of a second latency and high definition. But actually, there's a lot of important capabilities that are needed when sharing streaming in real time. Actually, Andrew can tell us from a police department and the sheriff's office what's the relevance of being able to easily distribute this signal. You want to tell us a little bit about it,
Yeah,
Andrew?
I love that. Thank you. Because we have an image up. I mean, we blurred the facial features, but even just from what we can see, it's very high definition. So Andrew, tell us like what advantages does VOTIX's live streaming provide for real-time collaboration?
And the AI involved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome because we're able to, it's not just the drone pilot behind the screen looking at the image. We're able to share that with all of our people in the field, our supervisors in the field. Anybody who needs access to it can quickly and easily access that to help make real-time live decisions. So maybe a sergeant who hasn't left their office yet, a big call is coming out, the drone's on scene, they're able to pull it up on their laptop, start making those decisions from a supervisor level. As deputies are responding or officers are responding to the call, they're able to see it in their on their computers as they go, and so they're able to start making decisions. How are they going to respond to the call? And so it's big. And then when you start talking about artificial intelligence and the things that we can do there, the ability to read a license plate more clearly of a suspect vehicle, right? And start getting all that information on the back end with that license plate information is huge. Or, at some point, maybe the facial recognition, we're able to get on scene, see our suspect, and potentially identify who they are before we ever get a person on scene. Anytime we can have more information, as Don, I know with all your experience in the military, the more information you have, the better decisions you can make. And ultimately, the safer it is for everybody.
Well, yeah, because this could be a highly dangerous individual, with warrants and usually armed and dangerous kind of thing. So if you know that before you get on scene, that kind of sets a mindset that's a little different than this is a person with no record and has like maybe a parking ticket, right? So from an officer.
Actually, I had a comment on that, Don.
Yeah.
I mean, because again, real-time streaming in high definition with AI built in to actually run these kind of things is tremendously powerful in itself. It really helps a lot. But there's a number of different considerations around that are also important. Like we're talking about information, right? How do you set up rules to protect data? Chain of custody, for example. How fast can that data be in the hands of people who can make decisions, or how fast can that data be protected in a place that is not going to be tampered with? This is the kind of things that are running in the back end.
Or importantly, not hallucinate, right? Like in other words, if you're using cage data that's internal to, for example, Andrew's department, to train that model. Or an official system, like what? Give me one of the systems, Andrew. I'm thinking NCIS and that's NCIC. My brain was a little slow on that. That those are gated, verifiable, trusted systems. So that's really key, Edwin. I agree with you for AI.
Yeah, exactly. It's key.
You don't want this thing reaching out to the internet and pulling some crazy stuff off of there. So I think that's really critical.
Actually, there's more than 10 layers of cybersecurity at play in any of these operations. 10 layers, Don. So when you talk about, who is accessing the data, what kind of profile is assigned to that person, what kind of, function level, they're obfuscated, they're actually license-based, they're VPN, all of this happening at the same time. Now, think about having a quarter of a second latency in this operation while you're actually running this capability right below it. It's tremendously powerful and ensures that public safety agencies and critical infrastructure inspections are run, protected with chain of custody efficiently, and obviously able to distribute data in real time or after it is captured for easy decision making.
Well, and I think also, Edwin, and from Andrew's perspective, being law enforcement in any of these agencies, having your software be drone agnostic is really key, right? Like, because Andrew's department may purchase a specific kind of drone or maybe a handful of different manufactured drones for different missions, which frankly is probably one of the best ways to go because not every drone is built for every kind of mission. But you can plug into all this. So tell us a little bit about your drone management solution and how it optimizes operations for diverse, you use the word diverse, fleets, and ones that don't maybe just include the drones that fly, but the drones that walk and the drones that might also swim, if you will.
Yeah, let me give you an example of this. Actually, we have a fully featured fleet management capability or module that helps companies to actually manage a diverse environment. And again, as you were saying, not only aircraft of any sort, VTOLs or multi-rotors or you name it, in wings and whatever, but also all sorts of different remotely controlled robots like dogs or rovers or boats and submarines. Let me give you a very specific, use case, and then, Andrew can elaborate on their own specific case with diverse fleets. The Air Force right now is actually interested in having a C2 command and control system that can help them manage aircraft, for certain purposes on the airfield around, like spooking, birds and clearing the airspace around the runway, but also lawn mowers, you know, debris removers. If there's any debris on the runway,
Okay, right.
they actually want to
Foreign
clean it.
object. Yep,
Yeah,
yep.
and dogs for the perimeter.
Yeah.
So this is a very diverse environment, and we see more and more organizations in the government and private sectors going in this direction. And I'm sure, and with this, I switch to Andrew. This is exactly the same case with police departments. Can you tell us a little bit about it, Andrew? We lost Andrew. It
Yeah,
looks
I
like
think
it's
we're
frozen.
having
Yeah,
some,
that's okay. I can
I think
actually address that.
the beauty and the
Let me
danger
give
of a live
yeah.
stream is like sometimes.
Yeah, let me give you some stats on that. I do know this information for the work we have done with Andrew. Andrew, I was asking you about, actually telling us a little bit about the importance of diversity in police departments, having different types of drones for different purposes. Can you tell us about it?
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry if I lost connection there for a
That's
second.
okay.
So yeah, having a diverse fleet can be very important. So, most agencies I think right now are probably running a DJI drone because they're one of the best out there and they're really cost effective. And we definitely are, the majority of our fleet is that, but we also found the need during some larger scale operations we do with human trafficking and organized retail theft to have a drone that we can put up for a long time without having to bring it back down. And so we started looking into the vertical takeoff and landing VTOL market, and we found a great company called Event38.
I love the red drone. I hope that Andrew's like frozen again. I'm hoping that at some point I can get those guys on the show because they've come to Colorado.
In the air.
Yeah, I've seen that thing fly. It's really cool. Yep, for sure.
Yeah, we're having issues with Andrew and the
Yeah.
connectivity. Let me just finish the conversation. So he mentioned VTOLs, but I've seen, and you will see a lot of dogs, from different brands coming into the fleet that police departments have, and those police departments that are near lakes and near sea, they definitely have boats. And sometimes even submarines to check on potential, traffic or, safety problems underwater. Yeah, I mean, definitely something that we need to consider in diversity. And Andrew mentioned actually the DJI. Again, I've seen that police departments have in average in the United States around 20 different drones. But even if all of them are DJI, they have several DJI drones. So it's not a single one with different payloads. So this is the kind of diversity that is important because it's required, for making the most out of these machines. But the kind of things we support, we're drone agnostic, but we support these, diverse environments. So you can add, drones as you require, using the best of the market and still run with VOTIX. You don't have to reinstall or use a different piece of technology to actually continue executing your operation at most.
I love that. We've got an audience question, so that's awesome. What autopilot systems does your diverse control system work with? Pixhawk, PX4, what else?
Yeah, exactly. So we control around 97% of the drones that operate out there in the market. I'm talking about aircraft in this particular statistic. And that includes all MapLink-based drones, PX4 and Nardo Pilot, and also all DJI lineup, including their docks, all, Parrot lineup completely, and Autel and Skydio to the extent they allow remote controlling or operating their aircraft. And obviously, on top of that, plethora of different, drones that are built on MapLink protocols.
What about ROS for robots?
Oh yeah, right now we have several implementations for different types of robots. Again, think about a box, running a box as a robot too. So we support all sorts of different drone in a box, including the ones from DJI, Histronics, iDeployer, drone, counter drone, Heisha, and many more. But also dogs, for example, rovers. So yeah, we do support those primarily if they're actually MapLink based. Now, we have a pretty robust API set that is easily integratable with other systems that are coming in. We have seen, several systems coming saying, hey, we have our own API. Can we integrate with you guys? And definitely we can do, the integration via our APIs.
Okay, awesome, awesome. So I want to talk a little bit about, kind of the dynamic, let's say visual that a pilot or someone in a control center will see in terms of your dashboard. Can you explain the Go Fly and global views?
Sure. For example, normally in the DFR, we worked hard to actually have a police officer or an operator, a DFR operator, to be in the air in less than 15 seconds, between 15 to 20 seconds, and only 3 clicks. So 3 clicks and 20 seconds, and you actually are in the air and go en route to support an operation. And via our APIs, we can also integrate. We have done it with a couple CAD systems, 911 systems that can, ingest or send us their location of the situation, and then we can move into executing, and then, sending this information over to secondary systems when required, all of it, through our APIs. Now, the dashboard, and I'm going to explain a little bit, and then I'm going to leave that to Andrew. If Andrew, you can do that, how that experience is from their side. But we built the initial dashboard to make it easy for you to have a situational awareness of where your fleet is, how it is operating, and how exactly you can use your assets to execute a certain operation and really quickly engage, either supervise and observe what's going on with your drones, but execute an engagement or engage what we call go fly and engage a drone directly and operate it. Andrew, can you tell us a little bit about that experience, working through our home dashboard and engaging drones for DFR?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like I said, time is critical, right? We need to get the drone there as quickly as possible. That's what DFR brings you. So the longer it takes, the less effective it is. And so while working with Edwin and the team, I wanted to make sure that we could get the drone there as fast as possible. So from the get-go, you start your DFR mission, you put in an address, you set an altitude, and you hit start, and you're done. The drone is now taking that mission in, and it's taking off, and it's flying there. You then, with one click, jump into the web cockpit for the drone, and now you have your entire web interface where you can pilot it. You have access to all your camera controls, and you have a ton of really good information at your fingertips, because situational awareness for the pilot is so important, and task saturation can happen very quickly. So we wanted to make sure that the pilot isn't going to have to look at 4 or 5 different screens in order to get the information they need. So if we're looking at a commercial building, for example, or a residential house, and we need to know that address really quickly, with the tap of the space bar, we're going to get the address sent right to the operator for them to see where it is. Wherever the camera's pointing, we have an on-screen compass that's giving you directions. So I know if I see a subject and they're walking down the street, I can tell you my ground units immediately what direction they're heading. Or if they start jumping over fences, I can tell them what direction they're heading super quickly. And if you have a Matrice 300 or a 30 where the camera can be separate from the drone's orientation, it's going to give you that camera orientation. So it doesn't matter where the camera's looking, where you're looking is the orientation you're going to get. And then you can pull up the map very quickly. And if you need to respond to a different area fast, you pull up the map, you go to your search bar, you type in an address, an intersection, or even drop a pin, and the drone's going to automatically fly there. So we wanted to build it out in such a way that it made it very easy for the pilot. So a pilot of any skill level could operate it, and they had the most situational awareness as possible, which helps us help our ground units and makes it safer for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. And Edwin, this is global, right? I mean, most of us think about our own homeland, but this is technology that's been being deployed around the world.
Actually, in the image, you see an example of a global fleet. In this particular case, in the Eastern, time zone, you see several zones throughout all Americas. So this is an example of how you, as an operator that may have a global operation or a multi-site operation, can easily coordinate and see what's going on. Now, something important, now that you bring the global word, right now, our software has been deployed in more than 36 countries around the world, right? This is tremendously important. Yeah, exactly. So it validates the importance of an orchestration platform that can support, right now, traditional pilot-based operations all the way through orchestration up to automation. So our software paves the way for you to start evolving from your traditional operations, which are fully supported in our system, all the way through, the next stages that you're going to experience. Or for those who just want to jump into, a complex orchestrated operation, can do it right there. Now,
and Edwin, I'm going to jump in here. To use the FAA's words, you can crawl, you can walk, or you can run with your software, right? Like this depends
exactly.
on
I love that.
where, use the FAA's kind of saying there.
Yeah, exactly. Now, let me actually bring something that is important, because many police departments or law enforcement agencies and public safety agencies think that they may not need this, let's say large like regions capability. But the truth is that there's situations where you have, Interpol, or you have actually multi-police departments from different states collaborating in a joint operation that may require having this situational awareness that is extended beyond what you're just doing. And this is the kind of things you can do in our platform too. So we're actually engineered to support not only complex operations, but also large size operations whenever required.
Very interesting. I never really thought about that multi-agency. I mean, it makes sense, right? Disaster response is almost 100% always multi-agency response. And then to be able to plug out all those different agencies in, even if they're not normal, VOTIX users. Let me ask you this, though. I think it does beg the question, how do people work with you? In other words, Edwin, what's the model? Do people have to, do they buy a license? Do they have to have software physically integrated into hardware? Like how exactly do customers and clients plug in, if you will?
Great question, Don. We tried to simplify it the most. So the three words that I love to use is that we're faster, better, and more affordable than anyone out there in the market. And even I'm adding one more, is we're more complete in terms of what we offer actually compared to others. Now, it's a SaaS company, hence pretty much, we focus on software that is operates under subscription. So you pay an annual subscription on our software. But we took a good time working with the drone industry on the needs and how exactly they wanted to adopt these technologies, and we prepare our technology and our licensing to make it easy for operators or anyone who wants to use our technology to jump in and not break their budgets, acquiring or licensing, subscribing our technology. So you can easily grow in need and pay only for what you really need. That's key in our strategy, and not simply, break anyone with the price and charge them for everything they have, even though they probably don't use all of it. Let me give you an example. Many law enforcement agencies have a large fleet, let's say 200 drones, and they only use actively, let's say 100. The other 100 are backups or all, equipment or something they may eventually use. So you can pay only for 100, and whenever you need the extra, you pay for it. But you don't have to pay for the 200, even though you can register the 200 in your fleet in our system, for example, just to give you a few. But there's more behind our licensing model for that.
Well, I mean, Andrew can speak to this probably better than anybody here. I think a lot of companies are focused on DFR and public safety because, frankly, it's such an important use case, right? It benefits society, it saves lives, both on the responder side and on the citizen side of the equation as well, quite frankly. But generally speaking, public agencies aren't flush with cash. So I think the ability to scale up or just, as Edwin said, use this license model judiciously probably makes a lot of sense for a lot of agencies, Andrew, that you've been in. Is that, in your experience, accurate?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think sometimes there's disconnects between companies and public safety and what perceptions are. It's kind of what I do with my business to try to help close that gap. And a lot of times companies might see public safety as, oh, it's public, so there's unlimited funds. And when it's actually, that's not the case.
No.
Regardless of the budget, you might be an agency with $1 million budget, you might be an agency with a, $100 million budget. But I guarantee you every single one of those dollars is accounted for and gets used, and probably more every single year. And so coming in and providing the solution to public safety at a reasonable price point, that is something that, when I look at a new technology and I want to adopt it, I have to go and sell it, really, right? I have to sell it to my higher ups. They might have to sell it to our board of supervisors or a city council and explain, hey, why are we using public dollars to do this? How is it going to benefit the public? And is it reasonable and cost effective? And so those are huge when you're a private business that is trying to integrate with a public safety agency.
No, it is. I think people also look at the Department of Defense as like some kind of cash cow. And yes, when you look at the congressional budget in the United States, that might make sense on some level. But to your point, Andrew, that those dollars are accounted for and they're budgeted 5 years out. And I've been at those tables. I've been at, where like people are basically almost coming to fisticuffs as, my program gets this, your program gets that. So, to think that, money's falling out of the sky just because it's a government agency isn't always accurate. So I think having a cost-effective system that's not only just cost-effective, but obviously highly effective in terms of what it brings to the table is really, really key. So we are at 3 minutes left, and I knew our time would fly, no pun intended, with the two of you. What I want to do is make sure we leave, this buffer at the end to make sure that we've covered everything you want to talk about. And, you guys can talk about what's next for both of you. So why don't we start with Andrew and then we'll end the show with Edwin. So Andrew,
Sure.
from where you sit, kind of what's next on tap and, what are you excited about for the industry?
Yeah, so DFR is huge. That's our big push right now. Trying to bring it to as many agencies as possible, trying to get it full time and with my own agency, because that's really, I think, the next evolution of UAS response for public safety. So we're really excited about that, and the use of robots and like the different robot dogs and all these things that we can use in the tactical environment are huge as well. So that's what's on the horizon. I think for us in public safety, and we're just at the doorstep right now. So it's pretty exciting.
Awesome. Multi-domain. Absolutely. All right, Edwin, we're going to end the show
Yeah,
with
well,
you.
we'll continue with our, commitment to DFR, making it better and better and better, and more affordable to police departments on the one end. Second, enhancing our AI capabilities that we spread out through our platform, nowadays, and it's going to grow. There's big plans for that too. Lastly, continuing our integrations. Right now, we have integrations with Detect and Avoid. We have integrations with Weather. We have integrations with UTM. We'll continue, adding more and more partners in our ecosystem and committing to our promise of being, the orchestra, director. So connecting all of those dots, and with that, giving, our customers the confidence that they can implement their systems and run in a very safe way while squeezing the most value out of their programs. That's what we're going to be doing. We're busy doing that, and we'll continue doing that.
Awesome. And I assume counter UAS too, because counter UAS is the yin to UAS is yang. Like you can't have safe operations if you've got clueless, careless criminals flying around your airspace, mucking up your ops, right? So I know that's something you're also looking at, Edwin. And
Yep.
as we close out, please tell folks how they can reach you.
Well, they can actually write to me directly or my team, esanchez@votix.com, esanchez with Z at the end at votix.com, or Santi, who's our commercial chief or officer, better. It's S. Echeverry with I at the end and at votix.com. Or contact, you can contact us via our website. You can just go there and fill out the contact form. We're pretty quick at actually replying back and outreaching, and we can meet. Whatever is your need, we can definitely work something out and make sure that you take the most out of your fleet using our platform.
Awesome. And Andrew, we'll end with you then. How can folks reach you?
Yeah, so if there's any companies out there that are looking to get into the public safety market and need some help with that, you can just reach me at 730 UAS, as all one word written out, at gmail.com. Pretty easy.
All right, very cool, very cool. Well, thank you both. This was an education. It's been so cool, Edwin, to watch your platform evolve over time over these past couple of years. Such an honor to have you on the show. And Andrew, great to meet you and have you on the show as well. Everybody out there, thank you so much for joining in, and you know how to reach these guys. So that's all she wrote. We are out here.